Okay, this morning let's talk about Twitter verification and how you get it, or what that blue check mark means. So, in simple terms, Twitter verification was meant to represent that person and not an imposter account. That the account you were speaking with was indeed that person. That was the whole point of verification, Twitter verification. And then, because Twitter became kind of the main social platform of journalists and media, Twitter expanded its blue checkmark verification to media companies. So at first it was expanded to like media companies writ large. So like the New York Times had a blue checkmark, or Business Insider had a blue checkmark, or Now This News had a blue checkmark. And then, after a while, it expanded to people working in the media that were notable. So, the editor-in-chief of the New York Times had a blue checkmark. The editor-in-chief of Vice had a blue checkmark. Shane Smith had a blue checkmark. Gavin McInnes had a blue checkmark. Ben Smith had a blue checkmark. And then, I think the third step was that media companies started in bulk sending out who their journalists and reporters were to Twitter, and Twitter would verify them. Because at that point, Twitter had recognized their core user base were media people. And it was a way of, I think, distinguishing who were voices of authority on the platform, and it helped media companies give their reporters voices of authority in asking for, like, usage of a clip, asking for sources, talking to people in DMs, knowing they could be taken seriously. So if you see anybody with a blue check mark that's not, Kim Kardashian or Kanye West, what it ultimately means is that at some point in their career they worked for a large, powerful media company. That's really the big indicator. That's why you'll see a lot of, Twitter verified people, blue check mark people with a few thousand followers. Is at the end of the day, they most likely just worked for a big, powerful media company in their life, and that big, powerful media company was able to get them a verification. Now, the same also worked early on with Facebook and Instagram. They used to give verification. Like Facebook used to they used to verify profiles. I have a good friend of mine that has a Facebook verified profile, and that kind of was just a game of who you know. If you knew somebody at Facebook, they could hook you up with verification. Facebook kind of got rid of verifying profiles. Just as a side note, though, like 2 different jobs I've had, Facebook's been in the same building, so like I know Facebook people quite intimately. We share buildings, we share elevators, we share, I see their offices every day. I interact with them for the most part. So media companies in Facebook in New York City are work quite closely together, both metaphorically and literally. Which is why I think part of the reason why you see the media cover Facebook so often relative to other platforms, perhaps like YouTube, is that media people know more Facebook people and interact with Facebook people more often, and therefore the eye of media's Sauron, is on Facebook more than it's on YouTube. Media people don't really understand YouTube. They don't really interact with people on YouTube. YouTube headquarters is out in California. It's proximity. But let's get back to verification. So if you want to be verified on Twitter, it used to be the best way to go about it was to work for a powerful media company, to be a journalist or reporter, and apply for Twitter verification. And they would grant it. They would grant it sometimes in bulk, like they would grant Twitter, a media company would send over a list of names, twice a year, and Twitter would verify those people. In the last 6 months, however, Twitter has kind of totally redefined the way they verify people. As I started, the whole point of Twitter verification in the beginning was to identify authoritative voices, in the sense that, not that Twitter condones this individual, but that this individual, this public figure, or this important, not necessarily meaning good, but just that they are in the cultural sphere. They're a voice in the cultural sphere. This is indeed that real person. It's not a fake account. There was a real problem, many years back, and still is, were parody accounts, fake accounts, and sometimes, you weren't sure that you were actually communicating with that real person. The problem was the media kind of went after Twitter a little bit, and said, why is this alt-right person, why does, this person espousing hate speech or speech that doesn't align with our social norms, why are they Twitter verified? And they kind of push Twitter into a corner. This person has broken Twitter's terms of service, even though Twitter's terms of service seem to go pretty wishy-washy. And then Twitter started banning people or like de-verifying people. I can't remember the last person they de-verified. I think it was some alt-right person that had espoused anti-Semitic views. But like, for instance, Twitter kicked off Milo Yiannopoulos for saying stupid stuff, for harassment of the girl who was in Ghostbusters. But as those shifts happened in Twitter, whereas Twitter started to get more and more bad, if you want to call it that, media press, especially with who they were verifying and whose voices, quote, they were amplifying by allowing them to have a blue check mark. Because, of course, not only does, some status is implied with a blue check mark, it allows DMs to go through, it allows your comments to go to the top of the list. The blue check mark in and of itself, Twitter's algorithm favors people with a blue check mark. So the media, ironically, kind of got elitist about the blue check marks. It's like, we can have blue check marks, but we don't want other people having blue check marks that disagree with us. That's what, it kind of seems like from the outside. So after that, Twitter kind of halted their verification process altogether. And I don't think they verify too many people anymore. But for the longest time, for the bulk of the Twitter verification, it went from just verifying public figures and authoritative voices in the cultural public square of the internet, whether they be good or bad, it didn't really matter. It's just to identify that this is indeed this real person, to then the bulk of the time blue check marking and verifying journalists working in the media industry, because that was the main user base of Twitter, and they had kind of a symbiotic relationship until the media kind of turned on Twitter, and then Twitter realized, oh, well, maybe we don't want to verify X, Y people, or we need to remove verification, or we need to be more selective about verification because we still want to be in the good graces of the media because they're still our biggest user base. So this all kind of still gets back to the question of like how to become verified on Twitter. Well, I can tell you what Twitter looks for on their back end is sources. So you could still apply, and what you want to do is, let's say you work at a media company or an intern at a media company, and you've written a couple posts that are public that people can read. Let's say it's at GQ if you're a guy, or if you're a girl, maybe that's Bustle. Not to be too gender specific, or if you're a girl at GQ and a guy at Bustle, doesn't really matter. Then you have a couple posts, and those are public. Compile a list of that, submit for Twitter verification, say what media company you work at, here are the posts, and explain why it would be useful for you to have it. Like, it would help in sourcing stories and contacting people I need to contact, and see if they grant it. But beyond that, I wouldn't, at the moment, count your blessings in trying to get Twitter verification. Twitter has become very, very, very clamped down on whom they verify. As to Instagram's become a kind of total shroud of mystery. Once again, Instagram, because it's owned by Facebook early on, it was a bit of a who-you-know game, and they would give out verifications to people. If you knew the right guy, they could get you verified. Nowadays, they hardly ever verify anybody unless they're a very big public figure. Although, once again, Instagram's primary user base is totally different than Twitter. Media people aren't so big on Instagram. They're kind of different people. So yeah, that would be my advice to how to get verified on Twitter, is ultimately gun for a big, powerful media company and see if they can get you verified via that media company. And that's what it means when you see these blue check marks. It's not that they're actually that important or that they're really cultural public figures in the cultural public square. It's just that they happen to work for a powerful media company at one point in their lives. Anyway, I hope that kind of explains Twitter's kind of army of blue check marks, and how you get verified, why people were verified, why people aren't verified anymore, and the fact that, Twitter and the media definitely have a kind of special relationship, and they always have. And Twitter recognizes that their main user base is the media. So yeah, anyway, just a thought, you guys. Hope you have a good morning.